That's crazy. That clock says it's 11:15. We're a little bit behind. It's 6 o'clock according to my computer. Welcome everyone to Sumter County Council meeting for Tuesday, March the 26th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mrs. B, will you please give us an invocation? May we all stand, please, in understanding of the pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we do acknowledge you as the one in whom we live and move and have our being. We acknowledge this week that so many are recognizing as the Holy Week, commemorating the time that you made the ultimate sacrifice, your Son and our Savior that shed blood that we might live. And we thank you for that. We thank you for the members that you have appointed, and we thank you for the jobs that you have given us. We ask that you help us to always serve in the way that you would have us to serve. As we begin our meeting, as we approach each agenda item, give us a mind to have clarity of mind, understanding, and kindness in our hearts to do the things that are pleasing in your sight always. Please remember our men and women who are serving our country in uniform, and especially those in harm's way. Remember those victims of the bridge that fell in Maryland today. Help them to recover everyone. And we pray for life, health, and strength for all of them. And we pray a special prayer for our clerk this evening. Be with her as she goes to whatever it is that she's going through right now. We know that she's not present, and her presence is missed this evening. And we ask that you be with her and provide her your tender care in the way that you alone know that she is in need of. We ask your blessings upon everyone under the sound of my voice. Help all of us to return to our families and our homes safely this evening after this meeting. These and our blessings we thank and ask in the precious name of our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
This evening will be led in the pledge of allegiance by Mr. Robert Dwyer Jr., who I just spoke with, served in our Army in the Tank Division for 7 years, U.S. Army. Thank you for your service, Mr. Dwyer. Would you please come to the podium and lead us in the pledge?
We join with pledge allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To our country, sir. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I don't want to amend it, but I do want to make a correction. Please note that on item number 10, Ms. Mack, the names of the fiscal tax and profit committee are wrong. It should be McCain, Keynes, and McGinn. Okay, I have a motion to approve the agenda. Second. Moved and properly second that we approve the agenda with those corrections. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
In Mrs. Blanding's absence, we do not have the regular meeting minutes from last meeting, but we do have the minutes from the special meeting for Tuesday, March the 12th. So we'll have to defer approving the regular meeting, but I asked for a motion to approve the special meeting for Tuesday.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the special meeting minutes for Tuesday, March 12th. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Land use matters, ordinance amendment number 2304, Ms. Reed.
Good evening, Helen Rubin for planning staff. OA 2304 is to update and correct some industry reference codes found in Article 3 and Exhibit 5, as well as the corresponding references in Article 5 of the county zoning ordinance. This, as we discussed previously, is something that's inevitable when you do a massive change in code references. We went from the SSC code to NAICS code last year, and as we've been working through the code, we have found that there are a few industries that got lumped in different places than we expected in our crosswalk. So some things that were supposed to be special exceptions because that's how they were treated in the previous code were inadvertently left out and put in as permitted by right uses, so we're amending that. And then residential care and nursing home facilities got broken out into 3 different categories, so we inadvertently dropped out the permitting for certain classifications of retirement facilities from the ordinance entirely, so this is going to correct that. This will impact the use table as well as the special exception criteria in Article 5. And the 2 specific uses are for pet boarding and for residential care. This amendment will bring both of these uses back into alignment with how they were treated prior to the SSC to NAICS conversion. The table that you see here is how the nursing facilities and the continuing care or residential care facilities are being added back into the ordinance. They actually fall under NAICS code 7233, and we are treating them exactly as we do, 6233. We're treating them exactly as we do the 6231 category. And we do have a definition in Article 10 that corresponds to that. That's already in the ordinance. As far as dog training, pet sitting, walking services with overnight boarding, and animal shelters, dog pounds, and overnight pet boarding, kenneling, they got moved from their own categories in the SIC code and lumped into other personal services, which is how they ended up being treated differently than the way they should be. So we have broken those 2 categories out into their own codes. So the pet training, sitting, walking, and pedigree services with no overnight boarding are treated the same as they were under 8129. And then we specifically call out animal shelters, dog kennels, pounds, etc., as being special exceptions in GC, LRW, HI, and AC district. As all of you are probably intimately familiar with it now, special exception uses require a public hearing approval through the Board of Zoning Appeals, whereas permitted and conditional uses are done at the staff level. So we are modifying 5B2 to add in commercial breeding kennels, animal shelters, dog pounds, overnight boarding, kenneling, and sitting services to add that SSC code into Article 5, where we specifically call out use criteria for special exceptions. And we are refining the use criteria in Article 5B3I to break out so that it's specific that stockyard, poultry houses, hog and pig farms, animal auction houses, and slaughterhouses have 1,000-foot separation. from structure to structure, it just uses them separately platted parcels, whereas those commercial kennels, animal shelters, dog pounds, etc., only have a 500-foot separation. This functionally does not change how it was dealt with under the SIC code. It just clarifies it. Instead of using it as a parenthetical in-text citation, we've broken it out into two separate 1 and 2 categories. Planning Commission does recommend approval of this request. It brings this section of the ordinance back into alignment with how it should have been under the SIC code. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions of Ms. Ruben? Prior to second reading, we will have a public hearing. I now declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak for or against ordinance amendment 2304, please proceed to the podium to state your name for the record. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Hearing is closed.
Second reading.
Second. It's been moved and properly second that we have second reading of ordinance amendment number 2304. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Second reading of ordinance number 2304 is approved. Under new business, ordinance 24998, first reading. We have a motion and a second from Fiscal Tax and Property Committee to authorize the sale of property located at 13 South Sumter Street. Mr. Bryan.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, this is actually first reading on ordinance 24998 to approve the proposed contract. Sumter County owns a piece of property on South Main Street. It's vacant. It's been vacant for several years now. And in order to move the property, we provide some incentives for purchasers to develop the property as retail on the first floor and two apartments on the second floor. So they'll sell it for the assessed value currently, which is $107,779, but this will be a forgivable loan. And if the developer improves the property so it's worth $1 billion within 3 years after the closing on the real estate transaction, then the loan will be forgiven in full. Assuming they meet certain deadlines, they have to meet the outside demolition within 6 months after closing, and then the interior demolition within 12 months after closing, and then complete renovation in 36 months after closing. So if they meet those deadlines and do what they say they're going to do as far as investing in the property, they'll get the full benefit of the loan forgiveness. I'm glad to take any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ordinance 24998, first reading is passed. Ordinance number 24999, an ordinance to amend the county 2023-2024 budget ordinance.
Mr. Chair, council members, good evening. Yes, this is a first reading on an ordinance to amend our 2023-2024 budget, which would allow us to purchase a bulldozer for the Sumter County Public Works, specifically the landfill operation. This is a critical piece of equipment in the daily operations, and we're in great need of another one. This is to purchase a bulldozer valued $525,000 plus a trade-in value, so the actual ask for council is for $466,500 from the solid waste fund reserve account.
We have a motion and a second from Fiscal Tax and Property. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Item number 3, discussion and possible action concerning Sumter County dirt roads. Mr. White.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much, and members of council. As you know, I have been chasing the private road issue for some time. As you know, District 1 has the largest land space in Sumter County, all of it rural. There's not one portion of the district that touches the city limits, but beyond District 1, of course, we act as a council. Beyond District 1, there are other districts who also experience the same problem. My good friend, Councilwoman from Shiloh, my good friend, Councilman from Pinewood. And I understand that the chairman has some roads in his district that experience the same kind of difficulty, and also the councilman from Myrtle Beach Highway. Some time back, I attempted to address this through using the public health and public safety scenario as an instrument to try and get folks relief on private roads. And the Attorney General wrote Sumter County back and said that it would still be illegal. And so I continued to research, ask questions, talk to other counties, and I figured out that there may be a different way to approach it. During my research, what I found is that this issue presented itself back in the late 80s, 1989, to be exact. And from 1989 through the mid-90s, there were a number of changes made to our policy on accepting roads into the system. Prior to that time, it was pretty simple to get roads accepted into the system. After the mid-1990s, there were a number of changes made that made it almost impossible for folks who live on private roads to get them changed into the county system, up to and including residents having to do the grading, paving of the road, bringing it up to specs, ditching, and so forth, which is extremely expensive. And so what we realized is that over time, a lot of these roads have deteriorated to the degree that emergency services can't access them, public safety can't access them, ambulances, fire department, folks who deliver home health supplies, people who deliver food to the elderly, rescue squads, just a host of entities that on some of these roads cannot access the property. As a matter of fact, yesterday, my wife and I were on Shakima Road, and we just happened to engage the UPS driver. And so I interviewed him for a second. Of course, he was a little bit shy about going on camera because he wanted to protect his employment, but we spent about 10 minutes talking to him. And Shakima Drive is off of Highway 441. And so we asked him how he processes the delivery of essential items to that community, because that community goes back probably a quarter of a mile, maybe a little bit more. And there are probably 30, 40 people that live on Shakima Road, a lot of them elderly, who are on medication, who get health supplies, home health services, and so forth. So I asked him what he does when the road is not passable. And what he said to me was amazing. He said, when I realize that I can't go any further on the road, I turn around and I take their items back to the stockyard. And then it's up to that individual, if the individual is elderly, to try and get a family member to drive over to wherever that is. Could be Columbia, could be Sumter, depending on where it's coming from, to try and access that medication or health supply. It could be diabetic strips, it could be a number of things. And he said it's unfortunate, but that's what we have to deal with. And so I thought about that, and I thought, gee, that there needs to be something that we can do to address that. And so I looked at a variety of things, starting with the mission statement under our procedures and policies for Sumter County Road. And the mission statement starts out by saying, the primary mission of the Sumter County Public Works Department is to maintain the county road system for the health and welfare of citizens of Sumter County. Other areas of responsibility shall be, but not necessarily limited to, the construction of roads, bridges as directed by County Council, and to assist with any and all emergency situations as dictated by the circumstances. And then I also looked up the existing state law, and under section 6-1-190 of state law, it says, ambulance service designated is an essential service. And what it means by essential service is that governing bodies are authorized to make provisions for ambulance service within the boundaries of the municipality. The governing body of any county or municipality may adopt and enforce reasonable regulations to control the provision of private ambulance or non-profit ambulance services. What that means to me, and we have counsel in the room and he can certainly speak to it if he chooses, the state mandates that we provide this service, access for these kinds of services. The same would apply for police situations. I know that we have some off-road vehicles that we could possibly use to try and get to someone, but that's not the same measure of service that we're giving other citizens who have immediate access. And as you know, the matter of 5 minutes or 10 minutes could mean a life. And so this is something that we have to address. I even went back a little further and read the county attorney's opinion in 1991 when they first began dealing with this issue. And they realized at that time that it was an issue, and they attempted to deal with it. And they even put guidelines in place to deal with this issue. But just a little bit from the county attorney. And the county attorney's name at that time was Henry Richardson. He says a few things. He said the basic rule is that public funds may only be expended for public purposes. This hinges around the provisions of the South Carolina Constitution. But he says the law is best summarized in the case of Anderson versus Baird. A public purpose has for its objective the promotion of public health, safety, morals, general welfare, security, prosperity, and contentment of all the inhabitants or residents. Legislation does not have to benefit all of the people in order to serve a public purpose. He goes on to say, in other words, the law does not prohibit public equipment being used or services provided on private property or to private individuals. Instead, any such services must be for a public purpose. The general rule is that whether or not a public purpose is being served is a matter of judgment for the governing body of the entity. That would be us. And that the courts will not substitute their judgment for that of the governing body. He goes on to say later that where a road which is not part of the county system is open to and used by the general public, it is my opinion that the county, under certain circumstances, could maintain such road. The Attorney General of South Carolina has indicated that whether or not the maintenance of a privately owned road used by the general public is a public purpose, which means it's generally discretionary with the governing body of the county. Again, that's us. And lastly, and this refers to Highway 261, which we'll talk about when we run the pictures. It says that ditches on private property may, in my opinion, be serviced by the county where the collection of water endangers a public road or the users thereof, where such work is a part of a comprehensive draining plan, or where the collection of water is so significant that it endangers the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. Now, this is back in, again, 1991, county attorney. And so we've known for some time that this has been a problem. So the question becomes, how do we address the problem? Well, in 1992, County Administrator Bill Noonan stated that at the conclusion of council's last meeting, he and staff members were instructed to gather information about the present county road policy and to develop some amendments to the policy. And of course, the amendments dealt with financial participation, which they deleted, Sumter County Council providing dollars per road, policy relating to pre-existing homes before the ordinance, and they put a cost exceeding component in the document as well. So clearly, council has spent some time in the past on addressing this issue. Now, I do have some ideas about how we can address this issue. And Mr. Chairman, I will have a motion at the end of this discussion, but I would like to yield the floor to any of my colleagues that may want to speak on the subject. But before I do that, I want to run the video of some roads that I looked at yesterday, talk us through that. And then if some of our colleagues would like to comment, certainly want to hear from them. And then if you would circle back to me, I would like to introduce an ordinance that I think we ought to look at and work on a little bit, if it so pleases the chair. Ms. Denise, would you start the video? So what we have here is Wilford Road, which is located off of Highway 521. There are 5 properties of record that live on this road. Ms. Denise, if you would go to the next picture. This is the entrance of the road. Would you go to this is a little bit further in. That's a little bit further in. And just hold that for a second. The reason that you did not get any further pictures on this road is because we could not go any further. It was so bad that we could not travel either through the mud or around the woods, but it gets even worse as you go back. And as you can see, it's a single lane road, so God forbid anybody's coming both ways, right? And there are elderly folks that live back off the road that I've met with and that I've seen personally, and they are struggling. I think I got stuck in this road about a year ago. I drove my truck back there and it got stuck, and it has the big mud tires on it. So it's a really bad situation. At one time, there's a field to the left, and the residents were using the field to the left because they couldn't travel this road, but the field is owned by a farmer and a hunter. And so they put up deer stands. And so, I mean, who wants to try to exit a road where there are deer stands and folks are going to be shooting, right? So this is a really bad situation. Ms. Denise, can we go to the next clip, please? This is Deer Run Lane, which is off of 261 as well. There are 5 properties of record. on this road. If some of you remember, and Judge Sanders, I see you in the audience, I know you remember where Don's Country Club used to be on 261. This is directly across from Don's Country Club. And what you have here is Deer Run is a private road, but it has so much sand that transcends down onto 261 that the water is as high as your doors. They come up to your door handle when it rains really hard. And the reason for that is that there is a creek somewhere back off of Deer Run, and that creek runs directly to 261, and it pushes all of the sand into 261. Now, as you know, 261 is not a county road. 261 is a state road. So it's not a county road. So I don't want the county to be blamed for this, but Deer Run is a private road, and because it's so sandy and because of that stream, it just overflows 261, which creates a major safety hazard. And any of you that's traveled 261 after a rain, you've experienced this. I see some of you shaking your head, so you know what I'm talking about. Would you go to the next picture, Ms. Denise? Again, that's 261 that you see, and all of the sand in front of it is coming from Deer Run. Would you go to the next one? As you can see, there's no ditching here. It's just a field and then the road, and you can tell how soft those edges are. And so there are a lot of folks that get stuck going in and out of Deer Run. Can we go to the next one? Same thing here. And on this one, this is actually where the water runs down from somewhere back off of a stream, and it just runs down, pushes the sand down into 261. This is, of course, Deer Run again. As you can see, it goes back and it curves around a little bit, and the houses are on the tail end of the road. And of course, this is the entrance to Deer Run, and you can see where the mud starts right at the beginning of the road where it rains, and it just pushes all of that onto State Road 261. The next road is Duffy Drive, and again, this is a bear of a road. There are 37 properties on Duffy Drive, and what you see to the left there is the entrance of Duffy Drive. Let's click, Ms. Denise. Again, Duffy Drive, and as you can see, some of this is dried up a little bit, but you see the first puddle. If you look a little further back, you see the second puddle. Let's go to the next clip. Click one more, please. And this is a little bit further in. I mean, it's just puddle after puddle. And this is the same road that kids have to use to walk to the bus stop. Same road that ambulances have to come in, public safety. If people are delivering health supplies, this is what they have to go through to get to residents. Can we click, Ms. Denise? Click once more, please. And again, this is another part of Duffy Drive. Would you click one more? So let me just say before we get to Shamika, on Duffy Drive, the pictures that you saw were pictures again. We could not go any further. And so we could not get the really obstructionary pictures that cover the entire roadway. But just imagine having to go in and out, grocery store, work, church, so forth. What if there's a funeral, the emergency services, fire trucks coming in? I mean, it's not a good situation. So what you see here is Shakima Road, and the pictures really don't do Shakima Road justice, but this road has bumps at every rollover, it seemed like, and they weren't just like smooth bumps. They are deep bumps where your car goes like that. And you can tell how narrow the road is if you could click, Ms. Denise. And this road goes back, I guess, probably half a mile or so. But there are a number of people who live on Shakima. Again, you can see the overhang with the trees. So if there's a fire on Shakima and they send a fire truck in there, good luck with the fire truck moving through that brush, right? So can we click again? Can we click one more time? Again, Shakima Road. And again, you can see the narrowness, the trees and so forth. There is no passing. So if someone's coming, somebody's gonna have to back up and allow whoever's encroaching to come through. Can we go to the next slide? And you can see the length of the road. You can see it's a pretty long road. Lots of folks live on this road, elderly folks, young folks, children, and so forth. And this is off of 441, right before you come into the Shore Air Force Base commercial area. Can we click one more time? And you can see the ruddiness. It really doesn't do justice to pictures because it's sunlight and you can't see them up close. But if you can click again, please. And you can see the ruts there. And imagine when it rains, how that works. If you could keep clicking, Ms. Denise. This is at the end of Shakima Road. It has a cul-de-sac. And in the cul-de-sac, at the very back of Shakima, there are 5 houses. So they're all the way on the end of the road. Let's see what we have next, Ms. Denise. And that's the UPS driver that I had the conversation with. He allowed me to take a picture of the back of his truck. But as I mentioned, he says that when the road is like that, he just doesn't go back there. So if you're waiting on medical supplies, you're not in a good place. And so I think that's the end of the video. Ms. Denise, would you click on that? And so the question becomes, are we meeting basic services? So I want to commend the prior councils for their attempt and their recognition that this is an issue that needs to be dealt with and has to be dealt with. My understanding from the research I've done is that the ordinances, the new ordinances were instituted because it just became too expensive to maintain the roads. I understand that expense is a cost, but I think probably everybody in Sumter has heard me say that government was created to address basic services. Now, we've grown to the point where we address a lot of other things. But basic services is the number one thing government should be addressing. And that's not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's not a black or white issue. It's a people issue. And government was established for and by the people. So now that we know we have this very serious issue that is affecting quality of life, what do we do about it, right? So we attempted to address it at the state level. We were told state law has to be changed. So we went back to the drawing board, and what I figured out is even though we can't change state law, we can change county ordinances. We do have the authority to do that. And so what I want to do is read you an ordinance that I developed. And let me just say, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to put this up for vote. What I want to do is read the ordinance, have council mull over it a little bit, have staff play around with it a little bit. They want to punch it up, punch it down, make some suggestions, but it may be a document that we can work with to help address some of these issues. And I also would like to hear from my other council member colleagues as well. But let me just tick through it, Mr. Chairman, and then I'll yield the floor. And so it's titled, "An Ordinance to Ensure Essential Services Are Rendered by Sumter County." Background. Every county in South Carolina has a duty to provide public works, including roads, drainage, bridges, and related access services. Sumter County Council recognizes that for its citizens to have reasonable access to government-provided services, a reasonable means of getting to and from their residence is essential. Sumter County is aware of the existence of private dirt surface roads within the county that serve as the sole means of ingress and egress by many of its citizens and taxpayers. Sumter County Council is also aware that emergency, medical, rescue, law enforcement, and other county vehicles cannot immediately and fully access many of these roads to render essential services and life-saving measures to which all residents are entitled. Private roads deemed inaccessible by the county for the performance of one or more essential public functions poses a serious threat to public health and safety. Under the proposed ordinance, existing requirements for roads to be accepted into the Sumter County road system would be suspended to permit the county to address the public health and safety obstacle. All property owners on roads deemed a public health and safety threat would be required to execute a contract transferring ownership to the county with the explicit understanding that only minimal maintenance measures would be implemented to enable the county to fulfill its duty to provide for the public safety, health, and welfare of all citizens. Triggers include, but are not limited to, law enforcement, fire department, rescue, ambulance, utility providers, Department of Mental Health, home health services, food delivery, medical supplies, contractors, funeral services, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Health and Environmental Control, UPS, United States Postal Service, and DSS. Activation of this division is based on determining that all of the following conditions exist, and there are three. One, the road is the sole means of access to one or more occupied primary residences. Two, the distance from the closest resident to the nearest public road is more than 300 feet. And three, access to the residence is determined to be impassable to emergency response vehicles, equipment, and their personnel, preventing them from performing their designated functions. And I think there's some folks here tonight, Mr. Chairman, that will tell you that in their conversations with service providers that they were told that they will not deliver things to those locations because it is impossible for them to have safe passage. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will yield the floor to you for any colleagues that may want to address the presentation that I've laid out. And again, I'm not requesting a vote on this tonight, but I would like for council to accept it. I would like for staff to look at it and begin to use this as a start point to develop what we need to address this problem. Thank you so much for the time, Mr. Chairman. You've been very generous in that regard.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. First of all, can you please send that to us?
Absolutely.
Okay. The floor is open. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't wait to say something. At first, I just want to thank our colleague, Mr. Washington, for putting all this work into this. God knows where to find the time to do all of that.
Ms. Washington.
Thank you so much. And thank her as well. Yes, that's a lot of research, a lot of just digging deep down into the details and the history, and it answers the questions that I had from the previous meeting as to how did we get here to the ordinances that we have today and the policies, and you've answered those. And it also explains how willing Mrs. Hyatt is to help when we call on her. Last week when it rained so much, I had a family that had a situation just like what you've shown in these pictures. My district has the same kinds of roads, and I don't even need to be redundant because that's just how bad it is. But Ms. Hyatt was so graceful with trying to help us, and that family had a death in the family, and they had to navigate a road just like that in order, first of all, probably to get the hearse down there, and then to get the family to the funeral and everything. And so we're just so grateful to Ms. Hyatt for doing the little that she can do with what we've given her. And so after we look over, you said for us to mull it, I hope that we can be very creative with what we come up with. Is no doubt that a solution has to be found to this problem, and I'm so ready to support it 100%. And I just want to thank you for your eloquence and the fortitude that you have, along with your wife, to do this study and to bring this forth to us so that we can have a starting point, as you call it. This problem has been in existence for a long time, and it's time for something to happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. McGann.
You're so welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment. I too agree 100% with what is proposed and what we need to do. And it reminded me, Council Lady McGann brought back memories when she said this problem existed for a long time. I remember when we first got on county council, and former Councilman Roland Robinson was here, Council Lady McGann and me, and the late County Administrator Bill Noonan and the Public Works Director Eddie Newman. We took a tour of the roads in 2005. And we were looking at county roads. And we looked at these county roads, and all of us agreed that we had some terrible roads in Sumter County. Terrible. Now, we did look at a few private roads. And if the county roads were terrible, you could imagine that the private roads were very terrible. So I want us to be able to be proactive. Reactive is something that usually gets us in trouble, because normally we don't react to minor things, we react to major things. And that is when something major happens. Somebody didn't get services, and because they didn't get services, they died. Okay, let's be honest, they died. So we need to be proactive, because we don't want that. So this is a big task. I mean, it's a big task, but we gotta start somewhere. And we got to come up with the ordinance, come up with the means, the way we're gonna attack this problem, because it has to be addressed. We cannot continue to let people live the way they're living down these roads. I mean, you saw, you know, I sit there and say how blessed I am to live on a dirt road, no, on a paved road, Myrtle Beach Highway. We don't have that problem. But I've been down a lot of private roads, and I've seen their problem. And I thank God that I don't have it. So we have to be proactive, not reactive, proactive. So whatever we want to do, Brother Marshall, thank you. I'm with you, because we've got to tackle this problem. We cannot be reactive, because it'll be regrettable when we be reactive. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so,
You got so much more information we got to look through. I haven't seen what you got. I mean, you got rips on,
Sure.
Dorchester got issues on this, and they addressing their ordinances. I like to read those as well, a little more detail. I've looked at them. So, because you got the expense piece in there, you mentioned it yourself. You know, that's extremely, you were headed with that. If this comes through. But if you want to send it to committee, it's your staff, let's work it that way.
yeah. So for those of you that did not hear what Vice Chairman Byrd, we were discussing, at this point now that the issue is on the table and everyone knows what the issue is, Vice Chairman Byrd suggested that we send it to committee to really work on it, look at the expense numbers, and figure out how we can conform something that would be acceptable. At this point, I'm comfortable with that because everybody knows what the issues are. Everybody knows what we're looking at. And if we come back with something that's not acceptable, we will hear from you. So I am comfortable with now, as Councilman from Dazzell suggested, going to committee and figuring out how we can tackle this thing.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, next item on the agenda, ordinance number 24996, third reading. Move for approval, third reading to amend business license ordinance. Second. Sorry, Mr. Brown. We have a motion and a second to approve third reading on approving the amendments of the county business license ordinance. Committee reports. The fiscal tax and property committee meeting did take place. All members were present. We've already had, I reported the motions for ordinance 24998 and 24999, and they both carried. We also had a special meeting of Sumter County Council where we did go into executive session to discuss the capital penny sales tax. We came out of executive session and we carried a motion to accept the appointments to the commission. There are 3 from the county, 2 from the city, and 1 from the town of Maysville. The names are Herb McCleary, David Bagwell, and Tracy Nelson from Sumter County, Earl Wilson, Kimberly Rauschenbach from the city of Sumter, and Nancy Williams from the town of Maysville. That is my report. Report from council members on other meetings and trainings or conferences. There are none monthly reports. You don't have any?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I do want to compliment this council and council members individually and collectively for addressing the business license ordinance and making the changes that were made. It has now gotten third reading, and I think it demonstrates council's ability to work on tough issues. And so I want to thank each member on this council for their effort and cooperation in coming up with something that everyone could live with, that improves our quality of life in Sumter and makes it fair and equal for folks who have serve their time and are out and want to be law-abiding, respectable citizens and contribute to our economy. So many thanks to the members of this council for working with us on that. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, since Mary's not here, I want to thank everybody on the council. That ethics is due at the end of this month. I know I just did mine. You know they'll ban me if you don't get it done, so. I would suggest who hadn't done it, better get on it.
Okay. Mr. Mixon, County Administrator report.
So, Mr. Chair, two quick items on this past Saturday. We had the fourth quadrant cleanup for Stash to Trash at R.E. Davis. It was an exciting time. Mr. Chairman, thank you for coming out and witnessing that. The schools, again, they have been so supportive of this litter effort, and the programs that they held there that day was exciting and energetic for all of us. We had a few churches that are actually there, and so that was like a kickoff event, and then they'll follow up with the next few weeks doing litter pickups in the various parts of the community. So we're excited about that, and thank Ms. Hyatt, our team from Public Works, from spearheading that, and yeah, having a lot of fun with it too. The second item, I just want to remind council, and this information is in your packet, about the budget schedule that lies ahead of us. The next scheduled, first scheduled meeting with County Council is on April the 23rd. That is a regular scheduled council meeting. We will propose a budget workshop. That's where we'll introduce all the information that we've gathered for you. The next scheduled meeting is on May the 7th. That's an odd council meeting, so that's why I want to bring that to your attention. That's not one of our normal Tuesday meeting dates, but that is a workshop, and that's when we'll also invite the other elected officials that represent Sumter County an opportunity if they would like to come present and discuss their issues with council. But we'll also use that as an opportunity to do follow-up information on your county budget. And then we'll go to the regular scheduled meeting on the 14th. That will be the following Tuesday. That is, again, a regular scheduled meeting. If necessary, there's an extra Tuesday that we will fill in, depending on how the budget conversation is going, before we get to the May 28th, which is a council workshop and second reading. As you know, by second reading and public hearing of the budget, we like to have it pretty close to complete. Obviously, we have the opportunity to tweak it if necessary prior to the third reading, which is scheduled for June the 11th. So a pretty aggressive schedule, a lot of information to cover. We're still working. We switched now from the gathering of the expenditures related to the county operating budget to the revenue side, which is going to be very important as we start shaping this budget, as you know. So a lot of information to follow. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Come down to the public comment portion of our agenda. Citizens desiring to speak during public comment are limited to up to 3 minutes. Comments will be made through the chair. If there are any questions, they will be answered after the meeting. I now declare the public comment portion of our meeting to be open. Anyone wishing to speak to council, please proceed to the podium. State your name for the record.
My name is Richard Getty. I think we ought to give Mr. Washington a good hand.
Thank you, Mr. Getty.
Good evening.
Good
My name
evening.
is Kimberly Blandon, and I concur with everything the Councilman Washington said. I live on Fellow Lane in Sumter County, District 5. I think this beginning first. Y'all listening and hearing the need that we have. You know, I have people on my road that have acute medical issues. And so when you can't have an ambulance come in, we already said, so I'm not going to repeat what he said. Here, we're the constituents here. We placed you in office. And we knew that you would hear us. We knew that you could do something for us. It's deplorable to live on the road and you can't get in and out. We're listening about a funeral. That's a time when we're grieving. We don't, So please, as you review the information that Mr. Washington has presented tonight. You saw the roads. We just want to thank you for everything that you're about to do for us.
Thank you, Ms. Brandon.
How you doing today?
Still got that dog?
No, but I am about the dog. Really, I haven't seen anybody from animal control.
State your name for the record.
Oh, Lorenzo Rivers.
Okay, Mr. Rivers.
I have not seen anyone from animal control. The dog is still in the neighborhood. I see him every day, twice, sometimes 3 times a day. But I just want to say I have not seen any animal control in that area at any time. And I'm retired, so I'm there all day. All right?
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
Have you called the city animal control? Because that street is in the city.
No, that's in the county. Well, I'm at the county line. Monroe Street is in the city, one side of Monroe, and my side is not.
What's your address?
917 South Harvard Street. Okay. All right. Now the next thing is, what is going on with the Red Bay Bridge? I mean, that bridge has been out for over a year.
It's going to be out for another year.
Why?
Because of the DOT. It's a DOT project. There are several reasons, and I've been raising Cain about it, Mr. Rivers, for a while. The first thing is, it's over wetlands. They had to get approval from the Corps of Engineers. The second thing is, there's a major gas line running through there. They had to get that moved. They've gotten those done, and now supposedly they're moving forward. But when I asked them how much longer it's going to be, they told me it's going to be at least another year. I know that's not what you want to hear, but not the question. The DOT, end of the year, in this last SUAS meeting. Well, maybe so. I hope so.
Okay, well, I mean, these gas lines and other things were there when they built the first bridge, right? I mean, there's been a bridge there.
I don't know like that.
I'm just saying, there's always been a bridge there. So I don't see how many, I mean,
I talked to you after. I went down there and took a picture.
Okay, all right.
It's not on cement pylons. It's on like telephone poles. And the telephone poles have split. And it's just unsafe. And they gotta replace it, but we have been discussing this in the SUAS committee for quite a while. David Weeks, I've tried to get him involved. I'll talk to you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Frances Bennett. I live on.
I'm sorry. Francis what?
Bennett.
Bennett. Okay, Miss Bennett. I'm sorry.
I live at 6720 Glover Lane in Lindbergh. I thank you, Mr. Washington, for what you've done. And like everyone else, our road is horrible. My husband has had to replace parts on his truck, which is a 2015. And the mechanic told him that a 2015 should not have needed that done on a wheel unless he's traveling a really bad road, which is the road getting to our house. I appreciate all that you've done. I know you're going to talk it over, but I would like to know, just give us some idea of how much time we're looking at before we can expect some type of an answer or something going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett.
Good evening, Councilman James. How you doing today?
All right.
I'm James Marlowe Johnson. I'm here for my council in Washington.
And this is Washington.
I thank y'all for coming by the house. Mama told me y'all was there. You took pictures before you came again. As you see, I live on Duffy Drive. The first part of that road That's going to my house. On the the left-hand side is my house. My cousin was in that trailer where you saw the bricks. Now, you didn't see the fence line, because the fence was there. On the right-hand side is my cousin, Miss Wright. As you can see, she put up a wood fence and put tree branches, because people are riding down here in the property. Thank God for what we did. And then, once again, the postman, they don't want to make deliveries. UPS don't want to make deliveries. FedEx don't want to make deliveries because of that road. Now, when my mother was here in 2000, she was complaining about this road. Now her son is here. I'm complaining about this road. And I want to thank Mr. Washington, and you guys hope y'all can come up with a solution. Because we need assistance, we do need help. Because that water is starting coming out and going to roll off into my yard. I'm already telling them I'm in a flood zone situation. Thank God I haven't got flooded out. All the rain and stuff we get up there in Canes, Van and Duffy. And you know this. So I just want to thank you guys for listening to Councilman Washington. I hope y'all come up with a solution. The trees, I don't have no problem on cutting trees down to get your equipment through there. Come on down. As long as anything on that Duffy Drive, come. Come on inside, come. I ain't have no problem with that. I just want something done. I'm not asking you to put payment down there. I'm asking you, like I said before, when I came to see you. Please it out. Do something for us. Thank you very much for hearing me out. Thank you.
That's right. Very good, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Webb, and I live on Shakima Road. And y'all see the picture up there. I have just been approved for Meal on Wheel, but they turned me down because they cannot get down our driveway. So I have to meet them at the end of the street if I want to get this. I mean, we had so much problem with this road. It took me about 35 minutes to get off this highway off the dirt road, because on my way coming out, here goes somebody coming in. I had to back up. Now I just to walk off the car. You know, but I wish I could just do something. I really appreciate you, Mr. Washington, coming out and doing that for us. Forbid if anything happened, just like if a fire could happen back there. We just lost the house back there, and we almost like lost two with that because they couldn't get back there in time. So the other two houses just got wrecked on the side of it. But, you know, it was no bad damage, but it could have been. And I really appreciate anything y'all can do just to help us out. And I really appreciate you, Mr. Washington. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well.
Very good.
Good afternoon, I'm Dr. Alexander Layton. It's great that you guys are talking about the roads. And Ms. Bennett, the damage to your vehicle. Okay, Jim Hudson Chevrolet, just today, a rear alignment, another $136. Since December, I've had 4 alignments, about $600. I'm like a laughing stock at Jim Hudson because they're saying, what's going on in Sumter? I'm like, well, I keep hitting holes, can't help it. I've got independent suspension, so I have to get front and rear alignment. So with other people having damage to their vehicles, me, every month, are you guys going to reimburse us for these things until I submit my invoice?
It's a state road, DOT payable.
Is it a state road? Myrtle Beach Highway, Councilman Dayton, your road, your street?
State road. And the reason I know is because I hit a pothole on State Road and I submitted an invoice for $907 and they paid me.
Awesome.
Just gotta go on the website.
Well, sounds good, guys.
Now, Michael, as she said, Councilman Baton is at your street like she don't know me.
Good evening, Council. My name is Myra Washington. I just wanted to say that in my journeys with traveling with my husband, down some of these roads, and your road the other day, ma'am, I nicknamed the road Shake Me Up Road because literally we could not, hit the gas at all. You coast and brake. It's just between coasting and braking. And it took us to get from one end to the other all of 30 minutes. So it was like an hour just traveling that road. And there were 2 cars that had to pull over to let us by. And I say that to say, I know this is a creative thinking session, and I just heard where the county administrator, did first ordinance for a new bulldozer, almost $500,000. And a lot of these roads, I mean, it is just a matter of if you could get a bulldozer and, scrape, flatten out some of these roads and clear them, make them wider. Like a lot of the residents have said, they're not asking for it to be paved. But if we could just get them scraped and leveled, that would be a big first start, I know, for a lot of these communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. Anyone else? Public comment is closed. It's been moved and properly seconded that we adjourn the discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?